We go again, everyone, for Out of Your League. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Will. You look a bit worse for wear. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk us through it?
I am a little worse for wear, a little croaky, a little horsey. City won the lead, didn't they? So we had a little party.
Who's we?
Woke up in a bed with Sean Wright-Phillips,
Okay.
which was nice.
Anything, just sleeping buddies or?
No, there's a bit more than that, but don't really want to go into it. And yeah, we out with all the lads. China Whites, what an awful place that is, but
Yeah.
it was a good
All
night.
the big dogs and you as
Good,
a little
good
dog.
game, wasn't it? Good
Yeah,
game.
good game.
Good game. Anyway, we don't want to talk about football, do we?
No.
No John Wilkin here,
Hurrah.
which is good.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are happy with that. So another opportunity to burgle his house.
Yeah, and for me to get a word in.
Yeah, because he's away again. He's in Turkey. We're not quite sure why he's gone to Turkey. People only go to Turkey for one or two things, don't they?
Teeth or tits and hair.
Teeth, fillers,
Yeah.
hair. Is he having an operation?
I wouldn't like to comment.
No. But again, this is your chance, and we are recording this, but he will be away for another week after this goes out, so his house will be empty. And you know where that key is. We told you last time, didn't we? Down
Under the pant pot, near the back door.
pink flower pot round the back on the left.
Yeah.
Go and fill your boots. We are joined by Rugby League royalty, Mark. Look at this. JP is in the house. Mr. Jamie Peacock, thank you so much
Pleasure.
for coming
It's
down
good
to
to be
see us,
here.
mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. Yeah. Probably a little bit better than yourself.
Hey, I had to get up and be on telly with 48 minutes sleep.
Yeah, I know, you're the
So,
best.
I know, I think I am the best. And they said I should do it drunk more often.
Yeah, sounds about right.
JP, so much to talk about, mate. So much to talk about. I mean, no one's won the grand final as many times as you have. Do you ever, firstly, I was just thinking this when I was walking over, do you ever do the Tom Brady and just stick all the rings on at once?
Do you know what? I can't even get the rings on my fingers, so none of the rings fit.
That finger's
Look at that
absolutely
there.
mangled.
Crikey, that is a hand
So,
and a half.
It's like there's a tumour on your finger.
it's
What's happened to that
terrible,
finger,
isn't it?
JP?
Because,
What's
what
that-
happened tackling El Crabtree? That's
He
what
caught in
happened.
his hair.
Yeah. I don't know what he got caught on. And then
Crikey.
2 or 3 weeks later, he had a finger like that. It's
Wow.
disgusting, right?
It's unbelievable. You need to go to Turkey.
Well, it depends how white John's teeth are when he comes back. I'll see him on Saturday, right, at the final. But yeah, no, I never put them on. I give a couple away.
Have you?
Yeah, I give one. Well, my dad had one, and
Nice.
he's obviously passed away.
Yeah.
And I give one to Wella Iraqi after the. I can't remember what final it was because I thought he played all year. For me, I thought he should have been in the team, and he'd been a major part of it all year round. So I says, I just wanted him to have it.
Oh, mate,
so,
what,
yeah.
that's class.
what a hero.
I gave mine away to a burglar who stole,
Yes, you
stole
did
my
have yours
2
stolen,
cars
didn't
and nothing else, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder where that is right now. I
I
wonder
don't
whether
know.
they melted it down and
They've been old
Turn it into
somewhere,
something
but Tommy Field Market probably.
that's so there's not that sort of sentimentality that you needed to keep all the collection together and
I think sometimes in life it's good to be able to give things away that you really like, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to be able to do in life. So for me, none of them are out. They're all away in a box somewhere. And that's how I like to do it. With the stuff from my career. I don't really. It's good to look back when we do stuff like this, but
Yeah.
I'm not essentially doing that every day. I'm going past stuff that I've won and going, oh, that's great. You know?
It's the memories and the feelings you had on those days that you really take with you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. I mean, they're the things that stay with you. How it felt, who you was with, that feeling of winning together, of putting that effort in 45 weeks and coming out on top. And generally, we'd win a grand final when we're an underdog, and that's always a better feeling, right, when you're an underdog to win. So for me, it is more about the associated memories rather than the ring with it. I'm sure my kids will think different, when I'm passing them down the line. But yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. Didn't you once say you'd give up all your rings for a win over Australia in the Four Nations?
Do you know what? I will give them all up for a series win against Australia. I'd probably say, people ask about regrets. I've only got 2 kind of really minor regrets in my career. The first one would be that, when I retired from international rugby in 2013, I got asked to play in the World Cup. I turned them down because I said I wouldn't do it to my friends and family. And I was doing the commentary for the BBC. There was 75,000 people watching England play against New Zealand. That's the best game of rugby I've ever seen live. And I thought I should be playing in that. But then my only regret is this Ashes series against Australia in 2003. We lost the Ashes series 3-0. but we were only behind for, I think, 16 minutes out of the 240 minutes in the whole game. We were only behind the last 5 or 6 minutes of each game, and that's my only regret, that we, what I knew at the end of my career compared to what I knew then about what it takes to win a game. I wish I'd known that then, and wish I'd been able to, because we could have won that series easily 3-0.
I'm really fascinated, JP, to figure out where this disciplined leader came from and how early that sort of started in your childhood. What was life like for you as a kid growing up, Bramley, Yorkshire?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a working class background. My dad run his own business making false teeth, and
John didn't need to go to Turkey, did he?
Yeah, exactly. And then, so I started playing rugby as a 5-year-old at Stanley. Something I really enjoyed doing.
That's early. That is early, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So my friend came up with a letter into school. The local club were asking for players, to go down Stanley. So I give it to my dad. My dad took me down. You know what? I think it was a good excuse for my dad to get out of the house, because my memories of being like a 5 to like 12, 13-year-old was going training on Wednesday nights, and my dad's thinking about 10 pints afterwards while we run round in the club afterwards. So
that's parenthood for you. That's great parenthood.
Just let us get on with it, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think some things I think are inside you. I always remember I'm never the best. Great player, but I'd always want to compete hard for everything, and people always said if we were losing by loads, I'd be the one kid who would just always kind of keep trying. And I've got like a little story around just about finding a way to make things happen. So when I was about a 9-year-old, and the famine was on in Ethiopia, and everyone, they'd done like Band Aid, but then they did Run the World, and they flipped that Taste of Face song, right? Rule the world to run the world. And I said to Mum and Dad, look, I want to take part in one of these runs, and I want to raise some money. And they said, look, you're too young to go do that. You can't go out there and do that. So I said, so what I did was I kind of like measured around the street, and I worked out that if you go around 20 times, it was 5K. And the next day I said to my mum, I'm going to run around the street 20 times instead, if that's all right. She said, yeah, agreed to it, and ended up raising about £26 or whatever for charity. So at the time, I think that's quite normal to do, but when you look back, it's not quite a normal thing for a 9-year-old to go out. Just solve that problem yourself.
Where did that come from?
I have no idea, right?
Bob Geldof come from at such a young age?
Yeah. I have no idea, but to me, when I look back on that story now, I think one of the things that allowed me to be successful in the game is never knowing when you beat, right, and always wanting to find a way to win. And that, I think, is just the same story. It's finding a way to do something when you've been told you can't do it. That's the same as winning as an underdog.
Yeah. And can you think of any memories before that led up to you kind of putting yourself out there and trying to raise money for other people?
It's
strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a strange thing. I think my memory's pretty hazy behind a 9-year-old. So I can't remember any other like kind of singular events off the top of my head that stand out for me like that. But that one kind of stood out for me, because I remember my mum got my name put in the local papers, for raising money, and that kind of stood out for me. I managed to get my name in the paper, like it's pretty chuffed.
That's a big thing when you...
Yeah, you're 9 years old, right? And you've got to think in the 80s, the papers are a bit bigger than they are now, right? Yeah. It's a big thing, the newspapers.
What was, you mentioned your dad a couple of times, and obviously, we'll get to tragic ending, wasn't it? 2011, he was diagnosed with the brain tumour, with lung cancer, and survived a couple of years after that, didn't he? But what was your relationship like with him? Because I think I've read before you saying that he never sort of told you he was proud of you and so on, but you saw him crying in the stands and that was enough.
Yeah, that's it. My dad was the kind of old school, right? As we probably... most people our age had dads that kind of way. It's not about revealing your feelings, and you just a pat on the head, and that I'd do. And my dad was really quiet, and he was a lot more patient than I am. He's different. He had different qualities than I have as a person. So for me, a little bit of that, I saw that a little bit when I was younger, as my dad not having an opinion. I just think, Dad, why haven't you got an opinion on things? But then as you get older, you realise, having patience and having time for everybody is a great strength. My dad's great strength as a person was that he had time for everyone. If anybody asked him about his old amateur rugby clubs days, they say he was a great fella. He's got time for everybody. He'll listen to you and he'll say all right to people. So he was good for me. He put lots of... He took me the places you want to go. You want somebody who's going to try help you become a professional, teach you in the right way. But I think, as I got older and I was playing in the professional ranks, I think he was really proud of it. You could tell it was. You can tell when you look at somebody in the eye, can't you? And you know them well. You can see kind of what's inside them. with that. And I think, you know, one of the qualities I got from my dad was hard work. My dad was always an hard-working guy. You know, run his own business, you have to work hard or it fails, right? You know, that's a quality, again, I think I got from him.
Yeah, it's mad how that's changed, isn't it? In the day and age that we are now, and obviously you do a whole lot of motivational speaking and so on, but just how sort of parenting has changed. That was such an old school mentality from old dads, wasn't it? Particularly old northern dads.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't think my dad ever said to me, "Oh, I love you," you know, ever. But you just kind of knew, right? Do you know what I mean? I kind of knew. It didn't affect me in any way whatsoever. So when you're parenting now, it's completely different.
Yeah, I was going to ask
right?
you, has that changed the way that you are as a dad?
I think so. Yeah, I realised because it didn't really affect me, but I know I've got to make an effort to say that more often. I'm probably a bit like lean towards what my dad was like, whereas I do, you know, deeply love my kids, but you need to tell them a bit more often. You know, that's what you kind of work out what needs to be done. It is a different kind of way of parenting now, right? It's not more about telling people. It's more about almost like coaching your kids in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and letting them have their viewpoints.
If Jamie Peacock wasn't a rugby league player, I always love this question and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I read somewhere that you might have been a meteorologist or an astrologist. Where does the inner geek come from?
No,
JP?
the inner geek, like I like a bit of geekery. I love a bit of science, love a bit of maths, and I will not get away from that. And I always feel a bit of fascination with the weather, but for me, you know, I was working at the time, before I signed professional, you know, 18 and a half, I was working just for DHL, but I was in charge of like 4 lads, this big contract that they had sorting stuff out. So I imagine I'd have worked my way up through there. I think a big company like that, you can progress. So I imagine I've been doing that, not just saying it's going to rain tomorrow. That's all you need.
What was the first moment, do you remember? Because you said you started playing at 5, which, I mean, that just seems, it's amazing that you started that early. What was the moment where rugby league had you?
I think straight away, I just always remember being younger and just enjoying training and being with my teammates and liking the physical side of it. And just, I think memories like that, it's hard to pull out exact ones with exact detail, but you more get a feel for how you felt that day, how you felt when you look back at those emotions. You know, are they pleasant emotions or are they not pleasant emotions? And for me, round rugby, certainly when I was younger, it's something I really enjoyed, I think. And that I look back and no kind of bad memories stick out for me as a young child growing up playing rugby.
So how did the move to Bradford come? Because you joined them in 1998, and I think when you got on the bus, and this is a big part of your motivational speaking, is there's a story that you just kept going. Part of your first training session, you were so nervous. Yeah,
that's right. You know, when I was younger, I never made like a Leeds or a York side or an England side. I was never earmarked out to be a professional rugby league player, which kind of knocks your confidence a bit. But I kept playing, you know, playing for the open age at Stanley, playing for the under-16s, under-18s. Then I got my chance. Bradford Bulls started to watch me play, asked me to come train for a training session. And I caught the bus up, the like 508 bus, which was back then from Bramley up to Bradford. And I just got more and more nervous about it and just bottled it by the time I got there, you know, and I just thought, just stayed on the fucking bus till it
Any more to get off of this stuff at Odsal?
Inverness, you got off of it.
Yeah, no, Halifax, I had to get off. And you imagine I had no mobile phone, right?
Yeah.
So I found a payphone, you know, speak to my dad. He's upset, teaching me some new swear words, which is a lot coming from my dad, who's a pretty like calm guy.
What did you say to him?
I said, "I'm not gone." I said, "What do you mean you're not gone?" I said, "I bought it. I stayed on the bus." So then,
what was going on in your head then?
I was just thinking I wasn't good enough to do it.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Right, great call. Imposter syndrome. Not good enough to do it. Too big a challenge in front of me. And then I taught myself out of it on this bus. So by the time I get to my bus stop, I taught myself how to getting off it, right? You know, and because I think some of it as well was I really loved playing amateur as well at that point, and I thought it was going to take me away from playing amateur. I was playing for the under-18s, and we had a great side, and under-18s at that point, you know, you're turning from 17 to 18, so obviously you amateur level, you're all out on Friday night together. You know, you're all out on Saturday night together. You play Sunday, you go out to get together all Sunday. And I think it was a bit both of it. If I look back, I would say it's 8% imposter syndrome, 20% of me not wanting to kind of leave that behind, because I would have had to leave that behind to be a professional player.
So you never went that day? You went straight
No, I
on?
never went, no.
And then the next day?
No, I caught the bus on. My dad spoke to him, and they said, look, you can have one more opportunity.
Was there an excuse?
My dad just said, look, he's basically bottled it,
So they didn't make, they didn't.
Well, there's no point lying about it, is there? So I think no right way to do the wrong thing, right? So, lying.
And did then you feel that you had to prove people wrong, and that you weren't a bottle job?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think proving people wrong is a good motivator, right? And I think I had to prove myself wrong as well, And I thought to myself, this is my big opportunity, and I've got to take it now. I don't want to let people down. Don't want to let myself down. So I need to take it, and I need to make the most of it, because I do know if I don't do it, I can have a good time with my amateur teammates, but I reckon I could be that bloke in the pub at 25 going, I could have done that.
It's incredible to hear you say this now, given the career that you've had.
Yeah.
That this should have been a moment that was so exciting and sort of, at the beginning of an amazing 2 decades.
Yeah. But at that point, I didn't see it as something exciting. I saw it as something that could fundamentally change how I viewed rugby league.
Yeah.
And also something that I had a big chance, in my eyes, of failing at, or going there, failing at. You can imagine. So I've never been picked for these Leeds or Yorkshire sides. No one's been interested in me. And now I've got to go play with people I actually watch on Sky Sports. That's, I think, a big step up.
It's incredibly daunting, isn't it?
Yeah,
for a young man. I remember when I was 16, I was playing rugby in Oldham, and my dad was involved with the club, but he knew Brian Noble, who was the head coach at Bradford at the time, and they were friends. And he said to my dad one day, what's Mark up to? He said he plays rugby. He said, do you want to come for a trial at Bradford? Not knowing if I was any good or not. Anyway, I went along, and for 6 weeks, because I played in the Lancashire League rather than the Yorkshire League, I didn't know anyone. And I could, when JP was talking then, I can resonate with that, because when you don't know anybody, that's like a little collective, little group of players that are already seen to be on the way up to stardom. And it's so daunting for a young man at 16, 17, 18 to kind of join a big brand like Bradford Bulls at the time. And I probably would have done the same thing if my dad didn't drive me. I would have probably done similar.
How quickly did those nerves ease then? What was that first training session like, that first hit, that first bit of impact?
It was tough and intense, right? And I was really quiet. I knew my place, and I just got on with it and just, tried to be my best, try not poke anybody's nose out. Like the dressing room back then, this is like 1995, 96, it's a completely different place to how it is now, 25, 26 years later. There's blokes there who have just basically only just gone full time, and there's no PC there, and you make a mistake there, and people are into you.
Who were the big personalities back then?
So you had some great guys back then. Graham Baddeley was probably the biggest personality in the dressing room, and Brian McDermott, and they had James Lowes in there. You had Bernard Dwyer in there, Paul O'Loughlin, like proper kind of old school kind of players, and some great guys like Scott Naylor, Mike Forshaw, but. I kind of quickly worked out, right, is that if I'm, watch what I'm saying, work really hard, try really hard, and these guys will probably, get on with me, and that's how I kind of worked my way into it, by just getting on with things, being quiet, minding my own business a bit, and just making sure anything I did as well as I possibly could do it, and I think, and I started doing extra training, and then over time, these senior players begin to see that, and they respect it, I think, and they respect the effort that you're trying to put in, I think. 3
of your 9 grand final wins came at Bradford, didn't they? Yeah. Just try and paint a picture of what that was like at that place in the late 90s. It was you've played for 2 winning machines in Leeds and Bradford so early on in the Super League era, but what a place to be plying your trade. Yeah,
what a place to be, so lucky. I think if I'd signed anywhere else at that point, I wouldn't have had the career I went on to have, because of the environment I was in, with the coaching staff and with the players there that I could learn for. I thought when I initially got into the team, there was a lot of kind of hard-working players, but then as we become successful, they signed more and more star players, like an Henry Paul and Leslie Vinocola, Shante Nappy, to go with all these hard-edged players. And the dressing room then, was completely different. We had a really hard drinking culture back then. That's how it was back then. That you would play on Friday, we'd be out late Friday. people will be out Saturday, people will be out Sunday, and then you come back on Monday and you just train hard. We put in the hard work, there's no doubt about it, all the way through. And I kind of think the thing that stands out for me was just how different the characters were. I think that diversity was the reason why we were so successful. We just had like mad diverse characters within the team, and I think us all coming together, we were super talented as well. And I think one other thing, we had some great young players come through. You know, like I came through with like Lee Radford, Stuart Fielding, Liam Price, Paul Deacon.
Wow.
Mick Withers was there at the time. He was a young player too. I probably missed some others. Nathan McAvoy was there at the time as well. There's some. They just got, the timing was right for the club. I think, you know, great overseas, good hard-nosed, experienced players, good younger players. And I think when you got those three things, then generally you'll be successful. And we had some good times.
I'm fascinated by the drinking culture because I don't know how you boys do it. And I've seen, you know... Even
Evidently, you're rough.
Well, I know, but I mean, I drink and I look horrendous now. The fact that you guys, and I know you train ridiculously hard and so on, but that you look the way that you do and the you know, absolute specimens and, you know, the peak of athleticism. But it still carries on now, Mark. I mean, you've only just hung up your boots. It is still
I find it's a bit of a badge of honour for a rugby league player to kind of burn the candle at both ends. And it's, you know, if a lad was out, you would play Friday, you were out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's no way if you'd done those 3 nights, would you ever call in sick on the Monday?
Yeah, the good players won't do that. You know, the best players won't do that. You would get people, some players, or the average ones will blob after something like that. But the good players, you know, that's how you build mental toughness a little bit. It's probably not the right way to do it, but getting in on Monday and training harder than anybody else, you know, that was... I think things have changed a bit, and, you know, whereas... well, certainly at Leeds, at the back end, it was a lot more professional. We were, you know, a lot more ruthless on what we were doing. But I think, that just... Brian Mack once said to me, Brian McDermott, they told him this in the army, he said, it's no good hooting with the owls unless you can soar with the eagles the next day. Which means you can drink as much as you want, but train fucking hard the next day. You know?
But I always wonder, again, like, don't get me wrong, I'm no prude in that sense, but I just wonder how much better everyone would have been without
exactly.
the drink.
I wonder that. Yeah, I look
in
back
terms of
now,
stats and turnovers and everything.
Yeah, I look back now and say, you know, if that Bradford Bulls team, if we'd have probably treated alcohol the way we did probably in the last, you know, 5 years at the Rhinos, what would that team have been like, you know?
Yeah. Do you have a strong cohesion between, in terms of team spirit and working for each other during that period? Because I find that sometimes teams that drink and party hard, John alludes to it from the successful times he had at Saints. They have a real bond on the pitch, which goes a long way.
You know you do. You know, I think, you know, having a drink together, whether you like it or not, does bring down barriers and creates bonds between people. You have a good time, basically. You know, like I say, like, no good story starts with I was drinking a water and having a salad, right? Do you know what I mean? But it done. But you get those stories and it brings you together as a group. And I think that's the benefit of doing it. I'm picking and choosing now the right time to do it. But for us, it'd be like, right, we play as hard as we possibly can Friday night because make sure we win. And then we all get out together and we enjoy it together. And at that point, we had, you know, 10, 11 players staying over from Lancashire in the hotel. So it'd always be a 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning finish. You'd be up and train at 9 o'clock.
Oh, my
and
God.
Just getting it.
That is insane.
Insane.
I mean, how sad is it for you, JP, to look back at Bradford now and see the sort of the demise of that club, given the memories you had there?
Yeah, I think it's hugely sad. I think for me as an ex-player, it's probably... It's a little bit easier than it is for a fan because I go on and I go play for the Leeds Rhinos, I go have another career. But if you're a fan of the Bradford Bulls and you think like 20 years ago you were competing against the best in the world, you're playing in World Cup challenges, you're playing in grand finals, and that's the pinnacle as a fan, isn't it? You know, when you go to these big events and win. And right now, you know, they're playing and they've got 3,000 or 4,000 people there. I think it's really hard for the fans to go from such great days to where they're at now. And I think it's really disappointing to see what's happened to the Bulls as a brand and as a club. You know, I think the competition would be better if we had a strong Bradford in it overall. You know?
Do you reckon there's a route back for the Mark to those sort of days? And would that fan base come, you know, crawling back?
I think they would. The longer it goes on, the chances are a bit less, I'd say. But Bradford is such a rugby league stronghold in this country, and the history they've got, the juniors that they bring through. You know, we see superstars who play for, you know, Bentley and John Bateman and the Burgess brothers and all the rest of them came through at Bradford. So they've still got that, you know, that nucleus of a rugby league love in the town. It probably just needs a bit of a helping hand.
I think, there's a few. It's right. It's that how much has come through there. We did it like quizzes when we were playing with England, and we split it up into Bradford versus Brest. Really, because of that many players came through Bradford. This is in the recent times, with Burgess and Elliot Whitehead and John Bateman, and people have been associated with Bradford. I think the trouble with Bradford will be is when I was saying like the end of the 1990s, beginning of the turn of the millennium. All the kind of floating fans, in Ilkley and Harrogate and Knaresborough would support the Bulls, not the Rhinos. But I think the Rhinos' success has swallowed all those up. So I think it'd be challenging. They need a sustained period of success to get back to 15 and 20,000. But yeah,
those were great days when I used to drive over with my family from Oldham, and there'd be Bradford Leeds, and there'd be 25,000. And it'd be the best atmosphere of any game apart from the grand final, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they were incredible. They were the best derbies to play in, particularly, at Bradford when Leeds started playing well, and it was really competitive, and it was just they were great to play.
Yeah.
And, like the Saints Wigan, right? I think in sport, if you've got a rival, a keen rivalry, every sport needs those, don't they? It's no good having a team out in front. You've just seen that. With the football with the Premiership going down the last day with Liverpool and Man City, that great rivalry brings out the best in the teams, I think.
You'd already have Barry McDermott taking Stuart Fielding's head off as well.
For
a bit of extra little bit of spice.
So 2006, you went to Leeds, and as a Leeds boy, was that a dream move? Was it a difficult move from Bradford to Leeds?
It was a dream move for me. Well, the thing is, I signed in, which you're not supposed to do, but February 2005, I signed. You're not supposed to sign June, but I was arguing with the club about some things, and basically they said, I was captain of the club at the time, won a Man of Steel, captain Great Britain, and we were talking about contract. They said there's no more money, and then they signed like Yestin Harris on whatever Yestin was. I'm not having to go at Yestin here, not all. I'm having to go at the club. I'm just lying. As soon as someone loses your trust, then I'm like, I'm done. And I wanted to play for Leeds anyway as a kid. Then I saw how good the young players were coming through at that time. So for me, it was a dream move to go there and to finish in the right way with the Bulls, win the Super League trophy. But the first year there was really, really tough for me. Was difficult. And I think what I underestimated was, the effort you need to put in to get bonds with your teammates. The game was changing at the time. I've gone from a dressing room that was about big characters and big nights out and playing hard to a team that's about professionalism, and the big character was Tony Smith at the time, more so than the players. So me and him, had our run-ins along the way with it. So for 2006 was it for on a level for Leeds Rhinos for me was a challenging year for me where I didn't deliver on my best.
You mentioned some of those characters, and we had JJB on, didn't we, last season, Mark? And I'm really intrigued to get your thoughts, JP, on the winning machine. Klopp talks about his Liverpool team being the mentality monsters now, but what you guys did at Leeds, I mean, you yourself, you won 12 major trophies there. Incredible. How do you even try to sum up what the culture was at that place?
That is a difficult question. I mean, I just think the culture, I think in any good sports team, people have confidence in themselves, and you can say that's ego, right? But I think we all have confidence in ourselves, but we weren't bothered who got the kind of limelight. There wasn't one person going, it's all about me. It was never that at the club. And I think we were lucky that we had three great coaches, who added in their different ways: Tony Smith, Brian McLennan, and Brian McDermott. Our overseas players were outstanding. We had some brilliant overseas players. We had like Ali Lawatiti, Kylie Luluai.
Brent Webb.
Yeah, Brent Webb, Danny Badeiras, Brett Delaney, Scotty Donald. We had a number of great overseas players. We had players who played for the club who come through from Leeds, who really cared about the city. And I think a good thing we were good at doing was like, we weren't all best mates, right? But we were really good that we could disagree with each other, but we commit to something. We commit to winning, or commit to what was needed for us to be able to win. And then we'd get in a final, and everyone would know their role and just do them fucking well. And if you can do that in a final, you'll win the finals.
That phone has stopped.
It's good timing.
It was the best clip so far, and the phone was going. Amazing. I find that the sort of to have that culture, I guess, is just there's a snowball effect there, isn't it? All about fine margins, and obviously when you worked under Brian McDermott, it was a case of a bit like you hear Dave Brailsford talking about with British cycling. addressing every little area. But did you? What was it like to be part of that bulldozer for so long?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to be part of it. It comes with pressure, though. There's a lot of pressure at the Leeds Rhinos. You look back now, and you say like 12 major trophies there, but there were lots of really, really difficult times there. You know, lots of times where we've been booed off, where we've not played as well as we could, where the fans got on our back. And playing at a big club like Leeds, or playing at a big club like Wigan brings pressure, right? It brings pressure, and you've got to learn to be able to handle that pressure. But one thing that stood out for me is the quality of players you play alongside. I think I learnt that in no disrespect when I came out of retirement and played a bit for OKR, and I trained with them a few times, and I'm like nearly 39 and like only done like 4 weeks training, and like my level of intensity of training is like a notch above 80% of the players there. Then when we get in a game, you just feel like lads can't play at that intensity, whereas when you're in a good team, and it's so much easier to play better because
it's a different mentality. I find.
Yeah.
And I say this with no disrespect when I first went to Salford, but having played in Australia and at Saints and at Wigan, the expectations are different at those clubs. It's not acceptable to lose, whereas I think sometimes because the smaller clubs have probably used to mediocrity, they kind of. It's a little bit more acceptable, and I think the players probably it breeds into the players as well. But when you're at a club like Leeds, like if you're losing, it's not good. It's not good at all. You know about it. But so some of the clubs that haven't had that success, it's probably we used to this. We used to winning one then losing one. But big clubs like Saints, Wigan, Leeds. It's just it doesn't happen.
I'd agree with that. You know what? You use a great word there, mediocrity. I fucking hate mediocrity. It's a waste of time. It's just an absolute waste of time. And I think that come through as a player. If you're not trying to do your best all the time, then why are we playing, or why are we doing this, or why are we training, or why are we competing? We're there to try to do as well as possibly can. Whereas I agree with you that in some lower clubs or some players who don't make it quite to the top, they're happy just being mediocre. And for me, it's just a waste of time. What's the point?
And as a player like you wouldn't mind playing with someone who had mediocre talent, but it's the mentality that's got to be competitive, win every play, do everything you can for your team. That's the big difference.
Yeah. Like for a guy like I play with Ian Kirk at the Leeds Rhinos. Ian Kirk is never going to be a superstar, right? But when it mattered, he put his body on the line and give you everything he's got. In the grand final, he'd come on for 20 minutes and he would tackle everything that absolutely moved, and he contributed towards us winning. And I think it's because he's surrounded by people that won't accept any less than that. And he understood. He's very self-aware, very intelligent. Well, I need to play like this if I want to stay in that team. And I think some of the lesser light players understood that as well and contributed as much towards us winning.
So was that mediocrity called out? Was that exposed? And if it did exist at Leeds, those players didn't last a second.
Yeah,
there?
they don't last long. You do your contract and then you won't get another contract, or you'll find yourself out of the team because it's seen as unacceptable, and you'll stand out. You stand out like a sore thumb if you're the guy who's happy with mediocrity, happy with being average.
What was your relationship, that early relationship, like with Tony Smith?
Yeah, Tony, I think me and Tony have got a good relationship now, but that first year was a bit trying, where you had to work out and find out how to deal with each other. He's a straight shooter, I'm a straight shooter, and we clashed a few times over things, but we learned to be able to disagree with each other, but to commit to do the right thing by the team. And in 2007, I think Tony got the best out of me as a player. 2007, particularly in the back end of the year, because he did a great thing. I asked him. I said, Tony, you need to trust me. You need to trust me and just leave me out on the pitch, right? I might look tired, I might look shattered, but I can drive people around me. I can make the people around me better, by what I say to them. And I can push through this, I'm not a problem being pushed through with tired. And he had a choice, and he decided to go with me. And I think our relationship developed then because he realised he could trust me on the pitch. And, in 2007, we win the grand final against a great Saints team. We smashed a great Saints team.
How important is that trust then with those players? Because you mentioned the guys that you came through with there, and the youngest guys that were coming through as well. That sort of band of brothers, of characters, and Rob Burrow, JJB, Danny Maguire, some unbelievable leaders as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think trust's a great word. I think in the great teams, you all trust each other's ability. But trust comes, right, in great teams from delivering on your word. So if you deliver on your word to your teammates, then your teammate will trust you. So if you'll say, I'm going to do this for you today, and you consistently go out and do it, then your teammate will trust you. And then when you all trust each other, you've far more chance of winning, I think, and you become more than the sum of your parts. But it requires... The hardest thing behind it is delivering on your word, always doing what you say you're going to do, and then that builds trust from it. And I think the thing is with trust as well is that if you think of, anybody's listening now or sat here, somebody who's broke trust with you, trust is one of them bridges in life that's really hard to build back up again. I think once you burn a bit of trust, it's difficult to get that back. And I think that's what can happen with players if they don't deliver. I think that's one of your great strengths as a player, right? Was I reckon you delivered on your word all the time in the inside, and you probably prided yourself, if I'm not wrong on that.
Yeah. We're talking about mediocrity before. I think as a player, I was probably, talent-wise, I reached my potential, but I always wanted to be, when you retire, people talk about other people, and they go, you'd want to go in the trenches with him. You'd want to be a player. You'd want to go into a big game. He had your back. Now, I always wanted to be that player because, like I said, you can't really affect how big, strong, fast you are, but in terms of character, you can have a big say in that. And I always wanted to be a player that wanted others to play alongside and be there when the going got really tough and it was like sink or swim. I wanted to be that player that turned up for his mate.
Jamie, standards are so important for you. Have you ever let anyone down?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, do you know what? I let the Bradford Bulls down massively in 2003. So 2003, I was out drinking and I put this right hand through a plate glass window and it sliced at my hand all the way through. Blood was spurting out everywhere. I ended up going to the A&E at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I ended up with like a postage size piece of glass stuck into my hand. And I got there and they recognised who I was. And I had to ring Nobby, the coach, about 2 hours later, 6 in the morning, and say, look, I smashed my hand. I cut through all my tendons and ligaments, and I was out for 8 weeks. Then, and for me, I was out for 8 weeks, and I let everyone down. I let my friends down, my family down, I let the club down, let the players down, anyone associated with me by that behaviour. Now, off the back of that, I came back so determined to put things right for the people around me, and that's the year I won the Man of Steel. I reckon that's the year my career kicked on. Because of that disappointment and letting people down. I think my career, I played for England, played for Great Britain, and performance level kind of plateaued a little bit, 2001, 2002. But this incident, I could have gone one or two ways with it. And my way was to go, right, I'm not going to drink like shots for the rest of the year, right? I know it's not a big, but for me it was a big commitment because my head goes, right? And
what kind of shots in particular? Anything?
I think what was that red stuff that they used to sell all the time that tastes horrible?
Yeah.
Like, and what was it?
Yeah.
It was the only
what was that? I know exactly what you mean. I can't think what it was. Yeah.
Like cinnamon taste, wasn't it? Cinnamon to aftershock.
Aftershock, that's it.
We all know, right? So then, and that kind of spurred me on, and it really kicked my career on from there, from letting everybody down to going on like winning Man of Steel and having my best ever year or so far in my career.
Like you said, that could have gone two ways, and that is your mentality, because not a lot of people would have that self-awareness, would they? And Mark, you've seen this from a distance, but someone like Jamie, you can't coach what he's got inside that head, can you? Really?
No. Playing against people like JP, you know exactly what you're getting, and you can predict what they'll be like behind the scenes, because there's certain characters. It's just obvious what they bring to a team and a club, and I think the leadership from him and Kev Sinfield Maguire and probably half the team at Leeds was a massive reason why they were so successful.
They've won just one grand final since you've left, which is, again, we talk about the sort of demise at Bradford. It has not been the same Leeds since those days, has it?
Yeah, I think it's a huge transition for the club. I think if you look, there's been not just myself, a number of big name players retire. Obviously, you had Kevin Sinfield, Danny Maguire, Kylie Luluai, Rob Burrows, Jamie Jones Buchanan. I put Ryan Bailey in there and Brett Delaney as well. They were a huge part of our success. Ryan Hall in there. There's some real players who were just central to the success. And I don't think the problem was, when you've got a group together like that, it inhibits young players coming in, because you think, why would a 16-year-old sign for the club in 2010? Because you think, for the next 5, 6, 7 years, I'm not going to get a spot. And I think that's what the club's been wrestling with. And I just think in any sport you see it. You look at Manchester United now, have they ever recovered from Fergie going? They've not, have they, right? You look at how long it took Liverpool to get back winning again. And I just think that transition in sport is just hugely difficult to do. And I think I think there's less money for a club to spend on talent now than whatever they're spending don't go as far as it did.
It's not as relatively, with the NRL especially, you can't pick up those players and then you lose big stars to other clubs over here.
Yeah, exactly. You can't, for a replacement for me, you could, Dale Finucane who play, you'd think he'd be a great replacement for me, but the club couldn't afford him. The club couldn't afford somebody like them now, so they can't. It's really hard for them to replace, I think.
Yeah.
And you think we're all basically playing on unders, really. 20, 25, 30% under market value. So just because we want it to stay together.
Yeah, I'd like to keep this as timeless as possible, but I know there'll be a lot of Leeds fans listening and we want your opinion on it. But obviously, Richard Agar going and Rowan Smith coming in, and how quick can things turn around? Can they get anywhere near back to those glory days? How long is it? You mentioned Manchester United. Ralph Rangnick was saying that a few weeks ago that they're sort of 6 years behind Liverpool. Is there a quick fix for Leeds to get back to somewhere near the golden days?
I think 6 years. I think they're probably right there in terms of that. I think building culture takes time. It's not a 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, or 3 months. 3 months you can start to do it, but then you've got to get your recruitment right, and that can take salary cap sport 1, 2, 3 years to get right. So I think they're on the right path, and I think they've got the younger players they've got coming through are good, and I just think Rowan, I want to see what he brings to the side. He's been in lots of different clubs. He's bringing his own take on it. He needs time to be able to get his stamp on the club, and hopefully he can begin to build and develop a culture. Saints, look at Saints. They took them 10 years, really, would you say, to get back where they wanted to be. I think it's a 10-year time span, to replace a golden generation, I think.
I was there. I first signed at Saints in 2012. And I could see they were coming out of a different era and into a new one. And then by the time we got to 2014 and won the comp, you could see the Lomaxes, the Percivals, the Makinsons, the Walmsleys, all these guys coming through that you could kind of say that's a little dynasty that's been created there. And now, in 2022, 8 years later, probably half the team that's competing and winning everything now was there back in 2014. So the success they've got now was the seeds were laid 8-10 years ago, and that's what they're seeing successful now.
And that's the thing. I don't know what in other sports, but in rugby league is that. So the players you're talking about when they come through, we've got players at Leeds Rhinos in that 20 to 24-year-old bracket who are great players, but that age, right? You don't know what it takes to win games. I reckon it takes you till 29, 30, 200, 250, 300 games under your belt before you can really start to understand what actions kind of win games. You understand, I think when you're age 20 to 24, you're more concerned with your own personal performance and keeping yourself in the team rather than understanding what the actions are going to contribute towards you winning. And I think that's why it's such a long period, I believe, from young players, a group of young players coming through into developing into a winning, culture and a winning team.
And they need the role models. We talk about Saints, they had Paul Wellens, unbelievable guy, great captain. John Wilkin, we slag him off, but great player, great leader. Roby, he's not a big speaker, but from actions, the way he plays is a model professional in any sport. So having those figureheads at a club for young guys to aspire to be like is really big as well.
But because you are such a great leader, JP, how hard is it for a coach to win you over?
I don't think it's that hard for a coach. I always give everybody a chance in life. You've always got to. Any coach comes in, you've got to give them. You got to listen to them and buy into to what they say. And for me, every coach that I've worked for, I've always tried to give my best. I've always tried to work with what they're going to say. And I think I think a coach should value somebody who's going to tell them the truth. I think, you know, and whether they like it or not at first, you know, like we all want feedback, but when we're giving it, we don't like it, right? And at first, and I think for me, the coaches I've worked for, I've always tried to give my best. I've always been 100% behind them, committed to what they've done. You know, I've been in dressing rooms before where people don't agree with the game plan. I've gone back into the coach with some other players. The coaches said we're sticking with the game plan. We're not changing this one. And I'll go back down and say, well, we're just fucking doing this game plan then. Well, let's do this game plan to the best of our abilities, right? Because that's what's going to happen. We might disagree with it, but we're going to commit and do it. So for me, I think probably I've had relationships with coaches that have been difficult at times or a bit uneasy, but friction. You need friction in winning. You know, winning's not easy, and you need some friction in winning. And at the end of the day, I want to win. They want to win. We both want the same thing. I think that's my intention. My intentions are never to undermine anybody or to undercut everybody. My intentions are let's win, and how can we win together? You know, and if that's me telling you something you might not want to hear, or you doing the same to me, and me sulking about it for a day before I come back and say, do you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it should be.
3 very different characters: Noble, McDermott, Smith. Who got the most out of you? Who did you have the most respect for?
I think Brian McDermott probably got the most out of me. I thought Nobby, let's talk through all of them. You know, Nobby was great for me coming through as a younger player. You know, really tried to look after me as a young guy. I played for him in the reserves. He had good people management styles, which suited me at that time as I was coming through. Then technically, I learned just so much from Smithy about the game. Really developed me technically as a player. You know, where to be, what to do, what the right actions at the right time. But then I think Brian Mack, you know, understood me as a person and got the best out of me because of that. I think, you know, Macker is a good all-rounder, so I think lots of coaches are good really strong in one area, maybe not so good, but average maybe in the other two. So you might be really good tactician, you might be really good at discipline, you might be a really good people person. Macker was good across all of them, right? He had a good take on all of them, and he should be in Super League now. Should be coaching in Super League. He's a miss, but I think he's probably too big a character for most CEOs or owners to work on.
He's intense. We had him on, didn't we? What a guest he was.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those dressing room team talks must have been unbelievable.
Yeah. He had a great knack of being able to pull a group together and get a cause behind you that you wanted to believe in. And you know, we played in some, and there was more to him than that. There was more depth to him than, you know, the Al Pacino talk or rallying a group. You know, they came up with a number of game plans to like shock teams where we were underdogs, and we came out of the game plan. They didn't expect it, and we nailed it. So he knew his stuff as well.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about your motivational speaking and everything sort of post rugby. But before we do that, an amazing club career. How do you look back on your England memories and your Great Britain memories? Yeah,
I mean, they're some of the fondest ones I've got. I love playing for England and Great Britain probably more than the Rhinos and the Bulls, because it's really special to play for your country and get selected to do that, and particularly to captain your country. I think it's the biggest honour you can get. And I just I've had some great moments playing for Great Britain. Scored a try on my debut in under 2 minutes. I got when I look back at my England and Great Britain career, I'm pretty proud of it. I became in the England in the World Cup in 2000. I didn't get picked for the first game, but I thought to myself, I'm going to get myself in this side, and when I get my chance, I'm going to keep my position. And I got to play against Russia, believe it or not.
The rugby league powerhouse of Russia.
Probably we talk
They're
about
on the way up, aren't
they? Yeah, exactly. But I managed to keep my position, became the top try scorer for England in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Got voted player of the tournament, and then Great Britain, scored a try on debut, involved in series wins against New Zealand twice. Last captain to beat Australia.
Was that in 2005?
2006, yeah.
In Sydney?
In Sydney, yeah.
I was at that game.
Yeah. What a game.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Did you ever get Willie Mason back, by the way, from that GB game?
No, me and him were all right, we're fine, yeah.
It was
Stuart got knocked out, not me. It was me who got him back in the game. But yeah, I mean, it was
a hell of a punch, wasn't it? I mean, what was said? Because you shoved him. What was that? Was there anything said in between?
No.
It was Stu that pushed him at the play of the ball, and then rather than pushing back, Willie Mason just threw one and dropped him, and then Sean Long came over.
Longy first.
And then Longy to be fair to him, he put up a bit of a fight,
Yeah.
and I think he was buying time until you got there.
Yeah, he got bowled over, and then I came in, and
the big man came in, and then they all got. It was
It
brilliant.
all started, yeah.
The olden days.
Yeah, I got bought beers by some Aussies the next day, even though we beat them, right? So it was.
That's a victory, isn't it?
Yeah, it is exactly a great victory. And then I think you know we played in some great games at the turn of the century where we kind of beat the Aussies, got to the Four Nations final. Then in the back stages of my career, we made the Four Nations final thing. You know, two moments stand out for me, which are really hugely disappointing. Was, you know, I played in the record defeat in Sydney, got beat 64 points to 12. Just the World Cup in 2008. They're the stick out as me as you know. Could have done better.
Yeah. So look, you're a busy boy, obviously ambassador for Leeds, still doing loads of media. But I'm fascinated by this career that you've got, motivational speaker, leadership sessions, and you know talk to blue chip companies and so on. How did that come about? Was that always something you were going to go into?
No, it came about right. Damien Hughes, you know, off the High Performance podcast, he was involved with us in the 2008 World Cup. Then, you know, forever thankful for his input. That after the World Cup, he says, you know, I think you've got a bit of a story. I think I can help you tell a bit of a story about your career, which can maybe transfer into school and business. So we sat down, we worked out a couple of different areas to talk about. We talked about the self-belief one. We talked about having a good attitude and what that meant. We picked one other area. Then he got me started going into schools, and then started doing more schools, more businesses, started kind of developing my talks and bringing out different facets of it, and then trying to work out, well, how do I actually lead, and what does it look like, and is it transferable to other people? Can it be transferable? Then that became a positive distraction for me in the last 5 years of my career. I reckon that I'd be pretty busy doing that, and it'd get me away from the stress of playing the game. And then from 2016, I did the Hulky Hard director rugby. You know, not for me. I like to be doing lots of different things all the time. And then I developed the talking into like mentoring people and bringing people through and trying to create habits. Because I reckon my career was built off, you know, creating good habits in different areas, and I have now kind of developed people doing that. And you just get asked to do things by business, and I just say yeah, and then I'll work it out afterwards, work it out later after. So say, can you do something around leadership? Yeah, I'll say yeah, and then I try and work out how it'll work, and then what will work for them. And through trial and error, you get to a place where, you know, I'll do a number of different things. I've got like leadership workshops, do a talk, I can do mentoring, I can do well-being, do a number of different things in it.
You have to have the right characteristics to be a good leader, but you're saying you could be coached to be a good leader.
Yeah.
The $1 million question then, what does a good leader look like? And I know you touched on that during your time at Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things around leadership. I think, like, number one is, you know, self-awareness and emotional intelligence are key, right? The ability to kind of understand people. I think leading by example, which for me is delivering on your word. You know, I think if you deliver on your word to people that you're leading, then people will trust you and they realise they've got your back. I think you've got to be good at collaborating with people. You've got to put your ego away, and, you know, it's not about being the best in the room. You've got to get the best out of the room as well. And I think as well that it's really important these days to build good relationships with people. I think if you can build good relationships with people, I think if you can deliver on your word, I think if you can collaborate, and then I think I believe you have to have a sense of humour and try and motivate people. And I think they're the things that we can all kind of learn to try and do, and that'll kind of lead most groups.
So I mean, you must not to schools. You're going into businesses. You're going to different challenges for you in terms of who you speak to.
Yeah, of course it is. You as soon as you get in, you've got to judge your audience. So I did some work the other day on the frontline leaders on the railway network, you know, on the levelling up of what's going to happen, you know, on the railway lines across. And I misjudged it. I came in like dressed in quite a nice shirt and looking a bit prim and proper. Yeah. And I misjudged the room, which took me then about 45 minutes to get them going, right? And then
in what sense?
Just that the lads were like working class lads like me,
yeah.
And they see me come in and been told it was a safety session, right? And they see me come in like prim and proper in a shirt and that, a bit clean shaven, and I didn't really introduce who I was, you know, and jumped straight into a bit of a well-being session.
Yeah.
And it took about a good 30, 40 minutes to get going, right? So I've changed that now. So the next session I did, right, I came in like with my Stone Island T-shirt on, right? No, I was serious, right? And I had to change who I was, showed a little video of myself, scrapping Willie Mason. then straight away I've got my audience then. Because I know my content's good, but I've got to get my audience first. But I can't do that if I go down and speak to KPMG, right? I've got to go in there and I've got to watch what I say, speak in the right language, change my vocabulary and how I use it. And I think you've really got to judge your audience, and knowing your audience and learning from your mistakes is key. Because I know my content's good, but then your delivery's got to be right for the audience.
Yeah, it must be massively rewarding that. You know, when you get the feedback from people. I mean, is this something that you can see long term? Where's this going to take you? This
Yeah,
career?
I mean, I would imagine me doing this till I finish, you know, my career, whenever that is, you know, 10 years time or whatever. It's something I love doing. You know, I love mentoring people. I love delivering the leadership sessions. I love seeing people like grow during it, and I like doing the well-being in schools and that, because you can see kids want to make a difference. You know, if you can build habits in a kid, just what a big difference it makes to them growing older. So I'm lucky. We spoke about this just off this, and if you can find something that gives you some purpose when you finish playing, then life's easier when you transition. You know, you can have hard days and good days. You know, it's not like just running around the field, right? Yeah. But it's easier.
Yeah, we're saying when you retire, it's really hard because one day you're a rugby player, the next day you're not. And in order to be a professional rugby player, it's something you've got to buy into from 14, 15, 16. And 20 years later, it ends. And the hardest thing is finding purpose and a sense of fulfillment every day and wanting to get up and achieve and do. And I find that some lads struggle with that. And I was speaking to JP off camera, and both saying we're in quite a good place where we enjoy what we do. And it's not about money. It's about, you know, that enjoying your life, really, just as much as anything else.
You've always loved pushing yourself, though, haven't you? Pushing. How do you then post-rugby still get those kicks to push
running
yourself?
100 miles, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're an ultra-marathon man.
Yeah,
as well.
that's it. Yeah, so I mean, the worst mistake I made when I finished playing was I stopped training for about 6 weeks. I felt terrible.
6 weeks?
Yeah, I was
I did
just
6
like,
months.
yeah,
I
I was like, I thought I feel terrible here. I actually like training. You know, I enjoy training, so I started training again. And what worked for me was doing a run of about 10 to 12k on a weekend. Felt like that physical exertion I needed instead of playing. So for the first 2 or 3 years, I kind of needed that to substitute it. But then obviously you do a 10k, you think I enjoy that. You get to half marathon and then you enjoy that. Then you push out to a marathon. So I did a few marathons, and then what's next? And I've got a lad I run with Simon Dent. You know, and I know him. He likes his running, so we got into ultra marathon running. You know, started doing some ultra marathons, and then, you know, just recently just finished with the double marathon around London twice, 100 miles. I'll not be running 100 miles again anytime soon, but I'll definitely keep running. I love running because it's so easy to do. You know, trainers on out the house, and I reckon any problem or anything you're feeling, you can solve that problem within about an hour of running.
You'll never lose that then, that quest to constantly challenge yourself.
Nah, because I like it. I think it sharpens your focus. I think what can help players retire is when, I think if you enter an half marathon, you've got an hard deadline, right? Because you basically got to get ready for it, or a marathon, you've got to get ready for it, so it makes you train. But I think if we don't have like hard deadlines, then we can get away from training. We can say, I'll be all right. It'll be all right. But if you've got a marathon coming up, you can't just say it'll be all right, I'll do it tomorrow. You've got to do it today.
Yeah, I love the image of Jamie Peacock that's still training on his own, but like mental. You still have that intensity, do you?
Yeah. Not all the time.
You have an easy training session. You know, even in the gym, you're still smashing it in the gym.
Yeah, not all the time. My body won't let me do the things my mind wants me to do anymore, right? So I have to vary what I'm doing. But there's a few times I'm out on a run where I'm just going, right, let's just go as hard as we can here and just stay in that place where you're feeling sick and running as hard as you can, and let's make it all the way back home, right? And you're not going to quit once on the way back home, you know.
You don't change when you finish rugby, do you?
No.
You're still the same person that would have trained at 17, 18.
Yeah.
That never leaves you. So that competitive edge, or wanting to bring the best out of yourself, or that cathartic kind of pushing your body, it still exists. It's just in a different format.
Yeah, exactly. You just change it in a different way, and I think it's just a good way. I think in our lives, all we do all the time is say we get instant gratification in it. You say yes to things, swipe down, it's yes. But when you're running and pushing yourself, your body's telling you, you know, to stop all the time, but you keep saying no to it all the way through. And I think it's a good way to be. It's opposite to how we kind of live our lives at the moment.
Yeah. Look, some unbelievable moments when you look back on your career, but things off the pitch. MBE 2012, and you went to meet the Queen. What an incredible day for you and your family. Take us, was it at the Palace?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a brilliant day. I came home from training with Great Britain in 2011. There's a really official looking envelope you know, when it's brown, it's official, right? You know that.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Yeah, I thought it's a speeding ticket or a tax fine, right? I opened it and it was asking if I wanted to accept the MBE. You have to accept it first. You're not allowed to tell anyone. So I accepted it. You know, only told my ex-wife at the time, then, and my mum and dad. Came out at Christmas time. Which was great, you know, got loads of great messages. Just a really good, really nice award to get for something outside rugby league. Then what was great about it was that my dad and my mum came down with me, Buckingham Palace, and my dad was ill at the time, so he still got to see me, you know, I was in the last kind of 6 months of his life. And because I get there early for everything, we got to Buckingham Palace early. But there was a benefit to that, because when you get there, you know, the winners, the recipients, go off in one room, and, you know, the family go off in another. But because we were there first, my dad got right to the front. He was on the front row of the seat. And you've got to imagine, though, the hall where you get the MBEs is fucking 50 metres long, right?
Yeah.
So 50 metres at the bottom, you're not seeing a lot, right? But my dad had the front row seat. So he was only literally 3 metres behind me while I'm shaking hands with the Queen, where my mum saw I was buzzing about that. And then what you realise when you're in with all the recipients, that you're pretty young, you know, everybody else has got grey hair or no hair in there, but like I am now, everyone's a bit older. And then you go through and see the Queen, MBEs, you know, are at the back. You know, they say you've got to shake her hand, take a step back. You know, she asked me a couple of questions. She asked, what she said to me, she says, you know, do you enjoy playing the sport? Yeah, I says, I love it. I absolutely love it. So what the teams you play for? I said, I play for Leeds, Bradford, you know, captaining in Great Britain. And she said, have
She
you
could
been...
have done a research, couldn't she?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But someone behind me said, Jamie Peacock, MBE for services to rugby. And then she went, have you been playing a long time? So I went, oh, can't you tell by how much grey hair I've got? Because I had some grey hair at the time. She just looked at me and just pushed my hand back. So basically, she just brushed me. So yeah, it was an amazing day. It was a good day. But yeah.
Was it going through your head in that moment, like, what am I going to say to her?
I was wondering what she was going to ask me, yeah. And I was just trying to make sure, when you're in some situation like that, you want to get all the protocol right, don't you? You want to don't want to be headbutting her or bowing or something like that, you know? So, yeah, I was flapping about that, to be honest.
I love that, brushed by the Queen.
Yeah.
So look, the type of person you are, there's always a new challenge, as we've just established there. When you're sitting in the nursing home, rocking back in the chair in however many years that may be, what needs to be ticked off? What's on Peacock's bucket list?
Geez, that's a good question. You know what? I just want to I want to live as healthily as I can for a long time, and I want to enjoy life. I want to enjoy life with my friends, my family, and the people around me. And I want to look back and think I said yes to most things, and I've got some great memories off the back of it for me. So it's not more about challenges; it's more about how I live my life and make sure I get the most out of our lives. And I think, you know, there was like studies, weren't there, on people on the deathbeds. That, you know, the thing they don't look back and regret and say, I wish I'd have worked more, right? Or I wish I'd have worked harder. Look back and wish I'd have spent more time with friends and family, enjoying myself. So I think they're the things that are going to be my focus, and just keep working in the work I'm going with it, and just kind of enjoying my life post kind of rugby are the things for me.
And look, Mark, I don't think anyone in a million years thought you'd be a motivational speaker, but you're going on the road. You're going on tour
I'm not
with Peacock.
But yeah, so I think this week tickets go out for the Enforcers tour, which is JP, Adrian Morley and Sam are doing a bit of a live tour across the north of England, and it kind of stemmed from my testimonial.
And you're carrying the bags and stuff?
I'm carrying the bags. I'll be like brewing up for
He's the agent. He's the
I'm the
agent.
agent.
It's like Eric Hall, you know, with a cigar and that. Monster.
I was thinking Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, Jerry Maguire.
This is exciting.
It is quite exciting.
this.
So when it was my testimonial, like, I kind of thought I want to do a rugby dinner, and I put on a list of which people I'd like to ask to attend and to speak. So the top three names were JP, Moores and Sam Burgess, and fortunately for me, all three accepted, and they came and did a dinner for me, and it was quite unbiasedly, it was amazing. So we had the most decorated rugby league player the country's ever produced. We got Moz, he's got the world record for the most amount of caps for his country, and then Sam, he's probably, in my opinion, the best player we've ever produced. And all three of them sat on a stage talking about their careers and the highs and the lows, the stories that you don't hear about, some of the superhuman efforts and some of the scandals with, not scandals, but, the fights with Willie Mason and Moz getting sent off in 9 or 10 seconds on it for Great Britain. And it was a great evening, and everyone walked out of there feeling 10 foot tall because it was so inspiring, some of the things that these guys had done. And I spoke to Simon Moran, who I know, who's obviously a massive music producer and does festivals and stuff, and I kind of said there's something in this. Anyway, he's put it together, and they're doing 4 nights, Warrington, Halifax, Leeds and Hull, just before the World Cup. And I think if you're a rugby league fan who probably watched Great Britain during the glory years of the 2000s and want to hear some stories from these legends, I think it's a great occasion.
Yeah, us three have got a great relationship. Myself, Sam and Mozza, through our time together. Playing for Great Britain, playing for England together. And I'll say the same. I was on the stage that night, but the hour flew by, absolutely flew by. Just went super quick, and I think Dave Woods, he's hosting it. He's great, from the BBC.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. So I think it's going to be in for a great evening. I'm looking forward to just being part of it, seeing both of them, having a crack about old times again and talking about the World Cup and what's going on, and that should be fun.
There's a massive thirst for it, isn't there? Because people love it, and like you say, with those characters and those names, they speak for themselves.
I think as well that what's good about what you decided to do was, rather than do it like a sportsman's dinner where you have to pay like 80, 90, £100 to do it, it's accessible for everybody, and it's
like
22 quid. What I know there's pressure on people's wages at the moment. It's tough times at the moment, but I think most people, if they really wanted to, for 20 quid, get a couple of hours entertainment, with the 3 of us on stage, I just think it's. I'm looking forward to it. It's just a good crack. It's just good to relive good times in front of people and just share a bit of the joy of rugby league.
And some of the stories Sam had, because he won SAS Who Dares Wins in Australia.
Yeah.
And the amount of stories that he couldn't tell publicly about him, when he did things that he shouldn't have done for insurance purposes that never got released, in terms of stealing a Jeep and taking someone hostage.
You said too much already.
Yeah, I know, probably haven't I? But it was unbelievable, some of these stories, and obviously Sam's a superstar off and on the field, and Moz is pretty good as well.
Moz is a great speaker. Moz is a great speaker, and he's got some great stories. He's a really good raconteur, Moz. He's got great timing with it. He's got a good sense of humour. And I think what's good is the 3 of us kind of buzz off each other when we're on stage. So it's got good chemistry.
So where did they go, Mark? Go on, one little plug.
It's Warrington, Hull, Leeds and Halifax.
Tickets?
Tickets go on sale on Friday from Ticketmaster. I think it'll sell out quickly, so be quick.
He did all right with Take That, didn't he, Simon Moran?
Yeah, Take That, Beyonce, all the rest of them. Then he's got three Northerners rugby players.
Oh, JP, thanks so much, mate, for coming in. It's been great. I mean, we could speak to you for hours and hours and hours, and if Wilkin was here, we probably would have been going on for a couple of hours, but really appreciate you coming in, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Well, I think you've been super impressive given how much
Give
sleep
it
you've had
like
in the
48
party that
minutes
you've
sleep.
had.
40.
Yeah.
I want to know how you knew it was 48
I'm
minutes.
impressed.
Woke up being caressed by Sean Wright-Phillips, which was lovely. He's a very.
Do you want to drop any names who you were partying with last night?
Phil Foden might have been there.
Ooh.
Jack Grealish.
Oh,
Ruben Diaz.
all the big dogs.
Like me.
Exclusive. Exclusive for you. Ruben Diaz's dad broke Noel Gallagher's nose.
How?
In a celebration.
In a celebration.
Noel Gallagher's nose is cracked in 4 places, and he spent the night in hospital.
Respect.
Didn't get to party.
Respect, no.
But I was there anyway. Give us a little follow, everyone, at Out of Your RL on Twitter. Wilkin, unfortunately, will be back with us in a couple of weeks. Thank you for watching. Cheers, JP. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Cheers, Will.